Hello and welcome to another edition of For the Record. I'm Sean Murphy. My guest today is Chris DiPaolo. He is a downtown Westerly business owner and is also president of the Westerly Pawcatuck Downtown Business Association. He's a returning guest to the show, so we'll meet him again when we come back, so stay with us. Welcome back to For the Record. I'm Sean Murphy. My guest today is a returning guest to the show. His name is Chris DiPaolo. You may remember him from chatting about one of his radio stations, The Buzz in Westerly. And we're going to chat today about his association with the Westerly Pawcatuck Downtown Business Association and the fact that he is now president of that association. First of all, welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having me once again, Sean.
So let's talk about your background a little bit. You own a couple of radio stations in Westerly and serve the greater Westerly area. One is a for-profit and one is a non-profit. So let's talk about both of them first.
Well, WBLQ AM 1230 is the for-profit station that you mentioned, serving all of southwestern Rhode Island and southeastern Connecticut. News, talk, sports, local news,
So
local
sort of
people.
full service
It is a full-service station. And the FM station, 96.7 The Buzz, actually owned by the Buzz Alternative Radio Foundation, Inc., of which I am president.
Okay.
That organization, that radio station, Alternative Rock, serving a little bit of a younger demographic, well, I'd say 18 to 35, 18 to 45 actually, because I mean you grew up in the 90s and
Right.
you know, so we're getting older.
Yeah, we are. Now the Buzz, that station recently got a sort of an upgrade with its signal range, correct? Because it got a new antenna location.
That's right, a new antenna location and a new height, and on FM, line of sight height is everything. So
Right.
we've tripled our coverage with the Buzz since I've last been here.
Right, really kind of doubling your signal power really doesn't do much except like clean up your fringe area. But when you go height-wise, that's when you're really talking about expanding your coverage.
And it fills in the holes too.
Right.
There are a lot of areas throughout town where you got a little bit of static, and now they're static free, which is good.
Now, how does one who runs a radio station how are you able to, for the layperson out there, just decide that you want to increase the range of your station? Aren't there lots of government regulations, and aren't you protecting other stations' frequencies and things of that sort?
Yes, I mean, there's a lot that goes into it. I had a consultant engineer who I actually paid to do the survey to see that I could indeed move. And this was actually a tricky situation because 96.5 WTIC in Hartford is one adjacent channel to the left of 96.7. As you know, we have odd numbers on FM in this country.
Right.
If you go into England, you'll get 96.4, 96.2. In this country, it's 96.5, 96.7. Right. So I was right on that line of 96.7. And the good news is that I have a good consulting engineer, and he was able to prove that I would not cause any interference. If I were any further to the west, then there would be an issue. So I just made it, and that BDA stands for Bradford Dyeing Association. That was the old mill that used to be there. That smokestack has stood for, I would say at least 100 years, and it's 194 feet versus 59 feet is what we used to be.
Wow, so that will make a big difference in your coverage
It
area.
has.
Now, when you want to go and do that, and when there's a possibility of you kind of sort of encroaching on another radio station's signal territory, do they need to be notified of it? Do they have the right to, kind of speak out or protest or anything along those lines? Or?
Well, anybody during a certain window has a right to file a petition to deny, and that goes for any reason. If you don't like the color tie I'm wearing, you can file it.
You'll get some calls.
But it's all, I mean, the FCC will look at that, and obviously if the reasoning doesn't make any sense, obviously it will slow up the application process. Fortunately, that did not happen. From the time of filing the application to the time of it being granted, amazingly, it took a week. I've never seen that happen in my history in this business. Every single FCC application that I've ever filed has taken about 3 months. I think one other time I had one granted in 2 weeks. But
what do you think the reason for that expedient, that very quick process? Are you do you go under the radar a little bit because somewhat of a low power in that respect compared to these 50,000 watt giants?
Well, I was told that the FCC wanted to move forward secondary licenses, which is what an LPFM
Expedited
is.
your process, right?
Well, at the time, I just got in at the right time. I filed other applications for 96.7 that have taken a long time, and I just happened to do it at the right time.
Right.
It depends on who's working what at the FCC. I mean, like any other governmental agency, they're understaffed as opposed to the way they used to be.
Right.
So Mr. Whoever at the FCC or Mrs. Whoever is at the desk, and the application came in at just the right time. And everything's done electronically now, too.
Right.
Back in the day, you'd have to send the hard copy in the mail, and that also took a bit longer. And the electronic filing hit the right person at the right time, and lo and behold, it was granted.
Wow, cool. Congratulations on that, because you
Thank you, Sean.
Get a lot, maybe some new listeners now because of the additional coverage that you have for it. So now let's talk about the AM for a moment. Now, there is still a market for AM radio, especially when you're kind of serving a sort of a local community. I mean, it's bigger than a local community, but it's not, again, like the regional FMs that you see around too. So there's a need and a purpose for the AMs these days still.
Right. Well, the AM station is a local channel as designated by the FCC. All 1230s up and down the eastern seaboard, actually up and down the country, not just the eastern seaboard, they're all designated local channels, and that's the type of class license that it is. So it's to serve a designated community, and that's exactly what 1230 does. So there is a purpose, not just for specifically AM radio, but this type of AM station.
Now, we talked about this the last time we were on the show, because we did the whole show on just one of your radio stations. But even though I mentioned, serving the local kind of greater Westerly, Rhode Island-ish area, in this day and age of radio in general, online and also the apps, anyone on the planet with internet access can listen to these stations.
That's right. We've got apps for the iPhone, and we also have something that we don't have. It's actually an app called the Tuned In, or Tune In app.
I have that on my iPhone, actually.
And that's a way for you to listen on Android. I actually happen to have an Android phone here, and I have the Tune In app on my Android, and I can listen to either WBLQ or the Buzz wherever I go.
Absolutely. Or you can just listen live from the websites, the respective radio station websites, if you just go online with your laptop or something like that, correct?
That's right. WBLQ.net is the AM 1230 website, and of course the Buzz967.com is the FM website, and both respective websites have a little listen live thing that you can click on.
So let's go back in time a little bit. Because you own and or operate a couple of radio stations. So let's go back in time. I don't know how far back you want to go, but as far as your interest in radio and how you came about to where you are now, we'll get to your role as president of the Westerly Pawcatuck Downtown Business Association. But I just want people to learn about you as a business owner first, and your love of your businesses, which happen to be radio broadcasting.
Well, not to revisit our last interview, whoever saw that, but when I was an infant, I was told, I don't want to go back that far, but I was told that when I used to cry, my parents would turn the radio up really loud. So from then on in, I loved the radio. But I grew up listening to radio. I loved New York radio. Over here, where we are in the southeastern Connecticut and southwestern Rhode Island areas where I grew up, the New York AM stations just bombed in. I was a big fan of WNBC. Where the famous Imus and Howard Stern were on, and that's what got me into radio, and not so much just the shock jocks, but I enjoyed listening to radio, the music radio out of New York too, and they were still very prevalent in playing, music on big AM stations back then, and that's what got me interested in it. And in the summer of 1988, I remember my grandfather, Vito, he showed me an ad in the Westerly Sun, and it said that there was a radio station in Hope Valley, Rhode Island, looking for a weekend board operator. I had no idea what that meant.
Right.
And this is 1988. I was 15 at the time, and the job encompassed changing reel-to-reel tapes, cleaning the heads on tape machines, and basically shutting the station off. It was a sunrise to sunset station, 1180 a.m. in Hope Valley, then owned by John Fuller, who now owns some bigger radio stations over here, one which you work for.
Right, do the morning show for Soft Rock 106.5. And all the things that you mentioned there, reel-to-reels, cleaning tape heads, shutting stations down, that stuff is so non-existent in radio now, because it's all, everything is online, and, everything is automated, and computers, and everything you mentioned, the mechanical aspect of it just doesn't exist in radio anymore.
I feel old. But you know what? I'm very thankful that I got to work through the transition of this business from analog to digital.
Yeah, we were splicing tape, cutting, editing that way. Now it's all done on the laptop.
I never mastered that.
Oh, no?
Your boss and my boss at the time was actually very good, and he showed me how to use the razor blade.
Yeah.
But now, I mean,
you splicing tape.
Exactly, but you can do everything digitally now, and it's a whole different world out there for broadcasters. But the passion for me is still there. And getting back to that local full-service radio, whether you're AM or FM, I know at the beginning of the interview you'd asked me about is that the purpose AM station served. I mean, there's no rule saying that you have to do this on an AM station. The only rule that I brought up was the fact that 1230 is a designated local channel. There's a bunch of 1,000-watt day and night, 1230s. But, as far as the programming goes, that's entirely up to the station owner. Our city of license is Westerly, Rhode Island, and we have a perfect little niche that we can serve there, providing information, doing high school basketball, high school sports, all that stuff, news and cancellations when it snows.
But, I had asked about the AM because it seems in this day and age the regional FMs so dominate, the airwaves, and they have such thicker and larger signals that I don't want to say that the AMs have been sort of relegated to the role they have now, but I will say that purpose, especially your station, it's like the perfect genre for what it is and what you offer on the station. It just seems to work out perfectly for it. And I'm not talking about clear channel stations like 660 AM, The Fan, and stuff that you can hear it in 13 states. I'm just talking about an AM station. It's almost like it's designed perfectly to serve a more of a local community and the people that listen to it, as opposed to the FMs that are very corporately run and and there's a lot of music formats on them. Wouldn't you agree with that?
Well, I do. Although if you have an AM stereo receiver. We are one of the last AM radio stations that actually broadcasts in something called CQAM AM stereo. And if you have the right receiver, it actually sounds, in my opinion, better than an FM station. You get that full separation. And as a good friend of mine likes to put it, it sounds like an orchestra. So we do still play some music on WBLQ, even though we do a combination of news and talk and local talk and local sports. We also play music as well.
This would be a good time to take a break because when we come back, we'll get into your role as president of the Westerly Pawcatuck Downtown Business Association. Maybe we'll give that website out after, but maybe how about the websites again to your radio station so people can maybe go and learn about them or maybe listen live to them.
That's WBLQ.net and thebuzz967.com.
All right. Chris DiPaolo, owner and operator of a couple of those radio stations, but also president of the Westerly Pawcatuck Downtown Business Association, which we will get into when we come back. So stay with us. I'm Sean Murphy. This is For the Record. Welcome back to For the Record. I'm Sean Murphy. My guest today, Chris DiPaolo, owner and operator of a couple of radio stations in the greater Westerly, Rhode Island area, but also, since he is a business owner, he is now the proud president of the Westerly Pawcatuck Downtown Business Association. So let's talk about, I think we kind of have an idea of what that association is, but I'll let you describe it.
Well, the mission statement of the Westerly Pawcatuck Downtown Business Association is to foster growth and to better the downtown area, and the downtown area encompasses both downtown Pawcatuck, Connecticut, and downtown Westerly, Rhode Island. As a matter of fact, the United States Historical Society has actually designated the downtown area. It's kind of like the old Main Street USA program. And there are many areas around the country that have these official designations, and we're recognized by that society. So we go by that borderline. So anybody who's within that specific district that is, I would probably say about maybe a 1 mile radius, maybe 1.5 mile radius, is considered to be downtown.
Now, it's interesting that it's Westerly Pawcatuck, because I also know that your Chamber of Commerce also is Westerly Pawcatuck as well, and this business association, there seems to be a very symbiotic relationship between Westerly and Pawcatuck in that sense.
Yes, it's almost like, as a matter of fact, if you look at our slogan, it says 2 states, 1 downtown, and that's exactly what it is. I mean, if you come into the area, unless you're a road geek like me and you know exactly where the state line is, it's kind of hard to determine where the state line is because it looks like 1 downtown.
Embarrassingly, I kind of know the distinction from like the bars. If you do a bar, C.C. O'Brien's is in Pawcatuck, right? But then you just go a little bit further and you're in Westerly. So, by the pub crawls, I kind of know the borders of the two towns and states for that matter.
Well, for those who run the gauntlet, you could probably tell if you spend enough time down there. But the Downtown Business Association, I'm very proud to be involved with it. And as president, I don't consider myself to run the organization. I'm basically, as I'm sure you know, when you're president of a nonprofit, you're more of a servant. And that's exactly what I am.
The power hasn't gone to your head yet or anything like that?
We'll talk about that off the air.
Yeah. Don't mention that, Sean.
No, but in all seriousness, we have a fine group of people alongside of me on the executive board. We have Joe Negrelli of Negrelli's Jewelry, who's the vice president. Our secretary, who does a fantastic job, Bruce Prescott, who is the proud owner of Zoe and Company Professional Bra Fitters. I know because I was fitted over there.
Did you say bra fitters? No. I haven't visited that establishment yet.
But no, he's a great guy. You know what? He's taught me a lot about structure and how to run an organization by Robert's Rules of Order. And so many years. I've been to meetings and I've learned so much from Bruce, who taught me this is the way you do something, this is the way you're not supposed to do something. You can't make a decision unilaterally.
Right.
You have to make sure you've got the approval of not only the board members, but also the members themselves. And then, of course, our treasurer, he's the secretary. Our treasurer is Joe Michelli, the owner of Michelli's Furniture in downtown Westerly. So we have a fine group in our cabinet, if you will.
Right.
And as far as the membership goes, even though we were talking about that borderline for the Historical Society of what is considered to be downtown, anybody can be a member. To be a voting member, you have to be within that borderline that I talked about. But you can be an associate member and pay your dues. You can really be anywhere to be not only in the Downtown Business Association, but also get involved in many of the events that we do.
So because I happened to be taking a ride down Musquamaca Beach the other day, and those aren't really part, because it's not downtown, so it's not really, they could be associate members, they just couldn't be voting members, correct?
Well, just to make that point even clearer, WBLQ is an associate member of the Musquamaca Business Association.
Okay, because that's,
right, but even if WBLQ weren't a radio station, let's say Zoe and Company Bra Fitters wanted to join the Musquamaca Business Association, they most certainly could,
right,
as could businesses of the Musquamaca area. It doesn't matter where you are, it's just that to be a voting member, you have to be within that downtown border.
It's interesting, you're a business owner of a couple of radio stations, and yet you can learn from the gentleman you had just mentioned about not organizational skills and just the do's and don'ts of just running this, being president of this organization, this association. Yet you're a business owner, and you're still, even this, just doing this is sort of new territory for somebody when they first get the role.
Yeah, it is. It is a new territory, and especially you're so used to. I mean, luckily, I have been running a nonprofit radio station, so right, I get to see what a nonprofit is run like. I've also been president of the Westerly Rotary Club in 2005, 2006. So I was able to get some experience as to the proper way to go about doing a nonprofit. But it is difficult to make a transition from being in a for-profit business and running things your way, right, as the business owner. Now all of a sudden you've got to step back and
get approval from everybody before you do anything. Right?
Anything, that's right. But you know what? It's a great way to learn how to work together. It almost brings you back to your days in school. I know sometimes when we think about being back in school, everybody has a different opinion. Oh, I don't want to go back to school. And some people say, oh, I'd like to go back to school. But it brings you back to the basics that you learn, whether it be in high school, being a class president or something like that.
Right.
And all of those things that you learn as a child, they definitely come in handy when you're running a nonprofit organization. And as a matter of fact, on the day that we're taping this program, we actually have a Downtown Business Association meeting this evening. So
you've got a packed day today.
Yeah, we have a packed day. And at the time that this program is being recorded, and I know it could air at all different times, there is a very popular event that the Chamber of Commerce puts on, the Greater Westerly Pawcatuck Area Chamber of Commerce, the Pawcatuck River Duck Race, which I'm sure you've heard of, and that happens in the later part of April. Now, even though that's a Chamber of Commerce event, the Downtown Business Association gets involved by putting up yellow and orange colored balloons on all of those lampposts, which I'm sure you've seen coming through the downtown area. The Greater Westerly Pawcatuck Area Chamber of Commerce has the Downtown Virtue Arts Festival. Actually, it's called the Virtue Outdoor Art Festival. And even though that's a chamber event, the Downtown Business Association gets involved because it is downtown and it's within our district. So we get involved by having sidewalk sales. I mean, not me per se, because I'm a radio station. I don't know what I'd sell, but you know, exactly. I could do that, but there are different things that the DBA does to kind of piggyback off of those events. Now, there are some events that the DBA does solo that has been done, and we're in the process of discussing different events right now that we could possibly do alone. I mean, we've done concerts. We had something called Westerly Woodstock back in 2010, and I served as secretary of the DBA before being president. So during that time, I was secretary from 2008 to this year, 2012. So I was secretary for 4 years. And during that period of time, we had an event, Westerly Woodstock, held at the Knickerbocker Cafe. And there were, basically, we had tie-dyed shirts, and it was a fundraiser. People would come in and they pay money to see all of these different acts that we had. Even though it said Woodstock, we had a lot of blues music. I don't know how you put blues and Woodstock together. But it was a great way to raise money for the DBA. And what is the money for? Might be your next question. Not that I'm trying to put the next question in your mouth.
You handle the show.
But we raise money so that way we can, you know, do different things to promote downtown. And one way to do that, you know, is through advertising. And I don't mean just on WBLQ or 96.7 The Buzz. I mean, also advertising outside the area, you know, to bring people into the downtown area, whether it be, you know, putting something on the internet that reaches people far away, maybe a far-off magazine, or perhaps a newspaper off in the distance, or other radio stations.
Or coming on this show to get the word out about it in general, because you know,
I was getting to that.
When they visit the website, I'm sure all these events are up there. You also answered another question that I was going to ask, and that is that you are very interlinked with the other organizations and associations. You mentioned the Westerly Pawcatuck Chamber of Commerce, and also, you know, the association that's more affiliated with the beach areas. You know, everybody's intertwined and intermingled, and there seems to be mutual benefit to that being the case.
There definitely is, and we do all work together. And, you know, like anything else, I mean, you get a few bumps in the road, and nothing negative, but I mean, there's you know, pros and cons to everything. But overall, everybody works together as a great team. And the great thing about these Downtown Business Association meetings is once we're finished with the agenda, once we get through everything we have on the agenda, which is set the week before each meeting, we, you know, allow people to stay after the meeting. We can talk, we can discuss. We also form committees. We just recently formed an events committee, and that events committee is talking about what I was just talking about a little while ago. What events are we going to do this year?
Do you get busier in the summertime with those events just because of the nicer weather and people's ability to be out? There's probably certainly more tourists in the area because of the beaches and maybe coming in from the Mystic area, that sort of thing.
Well, to be quite honest, it definitely is busier during the summer. However, everybody in the downtown Westerly Pawcatuck area within that district, they're businesses that are operating 365 days a year. And definitely not as seasonal as the Mesquamaket area might be. So we definitely rely on locals more so than any other organization. There are tourists that come in and do business with the downtown businesses, but it is important for us to market ourselves to the local community as well, and to remind the locals that there is a downtown to come to. And I put this challenge out there to people watching the show. When was the last time that you've been to downtown Westerly or Pawcatuck? And if you haven't been lately, come on down, because you know, there's always something going on. And a lot of businesses, they're making an effort. I mean, one of the biggest complaints for many years was that businesses are not open late enough.
Right.
And you know what? That's still a challenge. We're still not at that point, but there have been a lot of new additions to the downtown area. You were talking about running the gauntlet a little while ago. Not necessarily, I don't just want to put the word bars on them, but there are a lot of new nighttime hotspots that have come into the downtown area. The Malted Barley, they serve famous pretzels there, and they have live entertainment almost every night of the week. Perks and Corks. And the name Perks and Corks, basically perks, you can get your coffee or cappuccino during the day, and corks, you can pop your cork at night and have some wine and
and
some
have a good time
beverages.
down there.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm going to have to leave it at that because we are out of time. I'll give you an opportunity to give a website for the association. Maybe people could go on there and learn a little something more too.
Well, the thing to do is to go to Facebook and do a search for Westerly Pawcatuck Downtown. And they have a page which you can like, and they also have a page which you can friend.
All right, we'll do that then for sure. Chris DiPaolo, president of the Westerly Pawcatuck Downtown Business Association. Time flew, but thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you, Sean. It's always a pleasure.
And thank you for joining us for another edition of For the Record. I'm Sean Murphy. We will see you next time. Take care.